everyone. Welcome to the first day of class, Advanced Math Methods. I regret that I'm not there on this first day. I'm away in Texas for a conference, but luckily you guys all know each other already, and some of you even know me already. So we'll save a little bit of time on introductions there and pick that whole face-to-face thing up next week. So you've got a couple assignments to do in Canvas this week, and just check Module 1 to see where those are. And one of the assignments is to watch this video lecture and to take a short quiz that has to do with this lecture. So let's jump right in. So the plan for the lecture is to just kind of go over some general course information, and then we're going to do a review of the 5 math content areas in early childhood education. And I'm going to talk a little bit fast because I'm trying to keep this video under 15 minutes because that's all my video recorder allows me to do. And I don't want you guys to watch 2 videos. So, what is this class even about? So in general, this class is about how to teach math to children from birth through grade 3. And specifically, we're going to be teaching children math content, and we're going to be teaching it using our best practices in early childhood education, using hands-on methods and a real deep understanding of mathematical content areas. So yes, we are going to cover some mathematical content in this class. We're also going to cover some information about cognitive development. So what kinds of things go on in a child's brain and their thinking processes when they're learning math. And we're also going to talk about learning science. So how does what we know about children's cognitive development inform us as teachers to use the best and most effective ways to teach kids math? Now, this is something that you'll hear me talk about a lot when we're in our face-to-face that I'm really passionate about. I really am fascinated with the way the kids think and learn. And I think math really gives us a chance to dig deep into what's going on in their heads when they're thinking about problem solving and strategy use and that sort of fun stuff. So I think it's a really fun class. I think you guys are really going to like it. Okay, so the general information is that we are meeting on Wednesdays from 5:30 to 8:15 p.m. in Olympic 168. My office hours are listed here, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Hopefully by the time this video is posted, I will also have your syllabus posted, and you can see more course information there. I will, however, give you just a quick rundown on assignments that we're doing for the class. So we've got sort of 7 categories of assignments for this class. Part of it is going to be class participation. We're going to do in-class activities that are going to be worth points. We also are going to, you are going to write lesson plans, 5 lesson plans for 5 areas of math content. You're going to do a couple of observations, teaching observations using video recorded teachers doing a lesson and reflect on that. And you're also going to carry out one of your lessons from your lesson plans with a child and write a reflection on that. This number 4, this 4th thing, is an annotated bibliography. So for those of you that haven't done those before, I have a whole page on the Canvas in Module 1 about it that you can read about. Essentially, you're going to be reading a couple of articles a week for this class. We have no textbook. You're going to be reading the articles, and we are going to discuss them as a group. And so one way to make sure you're being really active in your reading is to take notes. And an annotated bibliography is sort of a strategy for taking notes on what you've read and keeping track of what you read so you can refer back to it later. So we're going to be doing at least 2 to 3 of those every week. And we're going to use them to guide our in-class discussions. Then you'll have an assessment assignment, developing and carrying out an assessment on a child. And this week you're doing a math game. So you're going to play a math game and write up a reflection on it. And that's also in your week 1 module. And then we also have a final exam at the very end of the quarter. So it's a 3-credit class. There are 300 points possible. And usually with a 3-credit class, they say 6 hours of homework or time spent outside of class on coursework. So that's sort of the rule that people use with a 3-credit class, that you can plan to spend about 6 hours a week on coursework outside of class. Okay, let's jump into math content areas. Yeah! So there are 5 overreaching math content areas in early childhood education that you have probably heard about before in other classes, like math and science, if you took math and science here at Pierce College. And so these 5 are number and operations, geometry, algebraic thinking, measurement, and data analysis and probability. And these content areas weren't just made up off the top of my head or off the top of somebody else's head. There are a lot of entities that have got together and agreed that these are the content areas we should focus on in early childhood. And so one is the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. We're going to hear a lot about these guys in this class. In fact, one of your first readings is a joint statement between them and NAUIC. So National Council of Teachers of Mathematics develop and promote these 5 math content areas, as does NAUIC, the National Association for the Education of Young Children. One of your first readings for this week is in fact a joint statement between these two about these 5 math content areas, among other things. Also, the Common Core State Standards include these math content areas as well. They expand upon them, but they include them, and they redistribute them among differently for like kindergarten to 3rd grade. So like, for example, in kindergarten, they don't include data analysis and probability, but then they do in, 2nd grade, I think they bring that in. But in this class, we're going to talk about how to teach these math content areas at all ages. All ages. So these 3 entities have all agreed that these are important math content areas for young children. So we are going to base what we do upon this wealth of knowledge from these guys. All right, so let's dig into these content areas. So the first one is number and operations. So number and operations looks like counting, using one-to-one correspondence, understanding numerals and fractions, so kind of like what numbers are, how numbers are represented and what they are, what's the essence of numbers, as well as this idea of operations, so performing actions on numbers like addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. We call them operations because we're doing things with the numbers. And so this is an example of a math activity that would focus on number and operations. So here I've got 5 dots and I've got 5 pom-pom balls. And if I were to count them, I don't know if you can see my little pointer, but I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd go yellow pom-pom, red, blue, white, and black pom-pom, 1 to 1. So you can see that by placing 1 pom-pom on each of the purple dots, I'm doing some one-to-one correspondence there. And you can also notice that the number 5 is written, so I'm representing that numeral. So by seeing the numeral next to those 5 pom-pom balls, I can see that this quantity is represented by some code, and that code is numerals. We humans have made this code to represent quantity. Also note, on this activity, it is a hands-on activity. A child would presumably take these 5 pom-poms and place them one-to-one on each of those purple dots. So as we know as early childhood educators, it's very important to give children the lessons that involve hands-on and tangible things. There are a number of reasons behind this that we won't go into right now, but know that when you're developing your lessons, this concept is driven home much more thoroughly using these pom-pom balls than if I were to give a child a worksheet that says, okay, count those 5 dots and then tell me how many there are. There are a lot of reasons for this that we'll dig into in this class, but know that that's our best practice for teaching math, is including hands-on real-life things. Okay, so what's next? Geometry. So the next area of geometry focuses on 2-dimensional shapes, 3-dimensional shapes, spatial awareness, symmetry, and perspectives. And this example here has tangrams. And so tangrams are those little tiles, wooden or plastic tiles, that have different 2-dimensional shapes. And children can use them to build other larger things. So let's say that yellow duck in the top left-hand corner, I might show a child a picture of that and say, hey, can you build me this using these tangram pieces? And in that, they would understand spatial awareness because they're looking at a picture, and then where those pieces are in space has to map on to what they're doing in front of them. They're understanding 2-dimensional shapes because these tangrams are indeed 2-dimensional shapes. They also could be understanding perspectives depending on how you place the card, if it's up in front of them versus down on the table. So it's also really important as we're doing this to make sure that we're using all of the proper language when we're giving children our math activities. So sometimes that's called mathematizing. So when I'm giving a shape such as, I don't think you can see my arrow cursor here, but there is a parallelogram in here in the orange sort of square at the top. and using square and using right triangle and all of those like good math words. We want to familiarize ourselves with that vocab so that we can pass that on to children. We'll show an example of that vocab here. So algebraic thinking is sorting, seriating, creating patterns, creating mathematical models. These are all areas of algebraic thinking. And algebra in early childhood, this is an algebra activity in early childhood that has to do with patterning. And so here, if you look at the top string, we've got some beads and a string. And the top string has a pattern of 3 cubes, 2 cylinders, 2 spheres. And notice I didn't call them balls or squares. I'm using the actual three-dimensional shape language. So I'm bringing in some geometry language in this. And so here, this is a pattern of that's 3 cubes, 2 cylinders, 2 spheres, and then so on and so forth. The next one has blue cube, yellow sphere, blue cube, yellow sphere, and so on. And then the third one has sort of all the colors, and you would presumably then repeat those colors afterwards. So this, a nice hands-on activity, attention grabbing, of interest to children. It also works on fine motor skills, so that's really good too. And that's an example of an algebra activity. Okay, how about measurement? So measurement is looking at length, volume, weight, area, perimeter, time, all of those types of areas of measurement. And then it's also understanding standard and non-standard units of measurement and using measurement tools. So on this example, we've got what looks like a little Angry Bird car and 2 blocks on an orange track. And so next to it is a measuring tape that a person can use to measure in centimeters the length of those 2 blocks. So we're using tools, and that's a standard unit of measurement, and we're measuring length. And so here in this example, it's measuring 2 cubes, 3 cubes, and then 4 cubes. And I would say that this example is a good one, but a bad one if you're thinking about the use of the tape measure, because it is not lined up with 0 at the end. So make note of that we're using our tools properly for children and giving them the proper ways to be able to use these measurement tools. Okay, so the last area is data analysis and probability. Now I can slow down my talking a little bit because I feel like I'm definitely going to get this done in the 15-minute window. So a lot of people think, oh, data analysis and probability, that's like statistics. We can't teach children statistics. Well, you kind of can. So some content areas, some sub-areas of this content area are posing questions and gathering data, how to represent data, analyze data, and even make predictions. And these areas are really closely tied to cognitive development, especially that piece about making predictions. I love that part where you can think about how something is going to be and then collect information to find out if what you thought before is actually true. It's really a fun way to have kids self-reflect on previous ideas and current ideas, because kids have a hard time doing that. That's something that we really, as educators, need to facilitate. And so this example is a graph. It says graph in colors at the top, and they've got numerals 1 through 10 on this chart. And I would assume that they have like maybe some other entity, some other things out in the room that they were counting. So maybe they had like 2 red balls or 8 carrots that were orange. And they're using these little paper or felt squares to create the graph, to graph the colors. So they're counting something around them and then representing that data on this graph, which is a really fun and tangible and interesting way to be able to use this graph. There are a lot of even more hands-on ways to do it. I like this one because it's colorful, it's attention grabbing, and it's just a fun way to introduce data analysis and probability. All right, ladies and gents, that is all I have for you today. Be sure to go on Canvas and complete the math activities, and do let me know if you have any questions about them. I think they're going to be fun activities. You're really going to enjoy them, and we will see each other next week.